and leads nicely into our next talk, which is, well, conversation slash talk, which is going to be about the university level. Oh, well, not necessarily just at the university level, but moving on to Andrew and Suzanne, who are going to talk about our education and training group on Wild Labs and what the motivation and vision for that is. Do you guys want to take it away, or are we having a conversation?
Yeah. So we'll start a little bit. So we're going to introduce ourselves, and then probably going to, although have not really told her, going to tag in Sarah to also discuss. My name is Andrew Schulz. I'm currently a postdoc at Max Planck Institute in Stuttgart, Germany. I worked for the last basically three and a half years on developing a conservation tech education course at Georgia Tech for undergraduate students to be able to engage in projects in an interdisciplinary sense. And so I got to see all the work that Sarah did and her colleagues with CV for Ecology, and it's really, really cool. But it felt like there was a little bit of a hole in terms of different people that are doing all of these different really awesome educational modules and educational programs for people in the CT space to be able to share their ideas. And so, Suzanne, do you want to jump
Sure. So, hey everyone, I'm Suzanne. I am a second-year graduate student in the Computing and Mathematical Sciences department at Caltech. I largely came here because Sarah was here, and to work under Pietro Perona. So I study how computer vision can be applied to conservation and biodiversity efforts. And the main project that Sarah and I are working on together is to count, detect, and track fish in rivers in the Pacific Northwest using sonar video, just because regular vision doesn't really work as well in the water. But yeah, and so last summer, Sarah spearheaded this summer school that's been discussed, as Stephanie mentioned. It's geared towards university and above kind of level. So university students, postdocs, people in industry or NGOs who want to know how to best apply and use computer vision techniques for ecological needs. We actually, right now, we have our call for applications out for next summer, and the due date for that is December 15th. And it'll be, we're trying to figure out the date still because we know that some ecology, like really big ecology conferences are in the middle of when they were last year. But
I think we have to get it out. It's going to be the 3 weeks right after ESA.
Yes.
So that we don't overlap with
August.
ESA.
Yeah.
So like the last 3 weeks of August. Anyway, for context.
Perfect. So yeah, that's my background. And then Andrew and I started this channel or this community within Wild Labs to, as he said, sort of promote not only computer vision and like conservation efforts, but also other technology, other tools that can be used that are in sort of the mechanical engineering space or the electrical engineering space or the civil engineering space or any kind of engineering flavor mixed with conservation.
Yeah, and so in terms of just to kind of I guess how to get involved. So really right now it's a really early community, but we're interested in folks. Suzanne started a thread, a discussion thread on introducing yourself, some of the programs that you're doing, whether it be something like we're discussing today, wherever it may be, but also we're really interested at all levels of these sort of education ideas, because if people are working on things that really work in like a kindergarten through high school level versus in a undergraduate or graduate level, all of these things can sort of help each other. So would really encourage you to join the group. And then Suzanne already talked about some of this, but the other stuff that I'm really interested in and would love to generate some discussions maybe at the end is the idea of trying to develop some sort of open source online kind of textbook for folks that are in this area, because it's something that is, there's a lot of, I think, literature out there for people that are already well established in this field, but not a ton for introducing the concept and the backgrounds of this. And with that, I'm done, and so I'm going to pass it off to Suzanne and Sarah to talk about the CV for ecology stuff, if you want to add any additional things in terms of that.
I'll
leave
jump
it
in
to
very
Sarah.
quickly, and then I have to leave in 2 minutes. But super fast.
Perfect timing.
So one of the things that I think is really, I think there's a ton of value for programs like what we developed for CV for ecology, where you're really giving like a very strong grounding and super practical skills to a specific set of ecologists with a specific background. But one of the problems with things like this is that they don't scale very well. A huge amount of why we're able to teach so much so quickly is because it's 3 weeks full on, and you basically have one instructor for every 2 students. So it's like a hugely kind of resource intensive way to teach. And the hope with that is that we're sort of really training the next generation of ecologists that will actually be able to have these AI skills be a fundamental part of their research labs or their sort of and be able to propagate that knowledge. But I would love to think about ways to actually scale and share resources. And, how do you move beyond, people who are kind of ready for that type of in-depth thing and really make all of this more accessible. And the other huge thing that we found with the CV for Ecology Summer School is that access to Python literacy is a massive barrier. And I would say it was the #1 barrier that we saw, and one of the really key factors in how much progress and how quickly people were able to come up to speed. And I think that that's not specific to computer vision. I think more generally with a lot of like CS driven or AI driven things, and I don't know, Andrew, maybe also in stuff like robotics. They're all the sort resources are public online, the courses and the invited speakers.
I can link the YouTube
Yeah,
too.
thanks, Suzanne. But so I think the big thing being, I think there are some shared needs for things like in your maybe living textbook, a whole section on what are the key aspects of Python or command line or scripting or using cloud resources that are very difficult for people to come up to speed on, and how do we build resources that are openly available to make that easier. So I'm super excited about this community. I think it's great, Andrew and Suzanne, that you're running it, and I'm super excited to see what comes out of it. All right, gotta go. Bye, guys.
Did you want to give a plug for your MIT thing?
Yeah. I'm also so I'm starting a faculty job at MIT, and my lab is going to be fundamentally super interdisciplinary. And so I am looking for PhD students and postdocs to join my lab to work on really building impact-driven tools and resources and everything at the intersection of these 2 fields. So if you know anyone who that seems like something they'd be excited to do, and they want to do a PhD with me at MIT, and they don't mind the cold in Boston, please share that information. The deadline for PhD applications is also December 15th. All right. Thanks, Suzanne. Bye, guys.
Okay.
So just before we move on, so it seems to me one of the reasons I thought this group would be really interesting and really valuable in our community is there's lots of pockets of people developing different curriculum and trying to tackle different things. Like I know Akiba and Jacinta are doing stuff. Al, you're doing Club Arribada. We're developing curriculum for our Women in Conservation Tech program. There's universities like Smart's got their whole thing and all of these different tools. And it feels like even just signposting the curriculum in one place as a first step would be really, really valuable. And then going beyond that to build a living textbook, seems like an amazing thing to co-create together.
Yeah, definitely. When Alistair was giving his presentation, I was like, oh, this could we could literally take everything, all of his curriculum, because it's open source and all of our curriculum is open source, and see how we can bridge it essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a vision for how that could happen?
Not yet, just a dream. but not a clear path.
And you're a little, you twitched a little. I feel like you might have an idea. No?
So I think in going forward, some of the ways for us to best organize this is and I know this might seem is just for people to reply in that thread from what Suzanne had to introduce yourself. Because I fully agree with Stephanie. I think there's a bunch of different people doing different things. But as an example, I don't even know if me posting another thread of asking people to post their syllabus would be worthwhile, because I don't know how many people have formalized syllabi that they're comfortable to share. And so I think if people just introduce themselves as we just start, because I think this group's been around for basically like 3 weeks now, that's a really, really good starting point for us to generate, exactly as you said, some of those ideas, Stephanie, of going forward and figuring out sort of a way for everybody to be able to share their pedagogical science jargony. They're teaching how to teach ways of conservation tech. So
Alistair, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm using the hand, which is very proud of myself. So you guys burst out and
proud
talk.
of you too.
Very good. I think it's a fantastic idea, because the way I've seen it too is you can have someone at master's level who's never touched Python before, who will come in super excited about EdgeML and have got great ideas about how they want to use it, have seen various talks about it, but then you put them in front of a command line and they'll be like, oh, how do I do this? And where do you send someone like that? So we don't have resource in our space. There's loads of go learn Python. If you type learn Python into YouTube, there's countless programming videos, but nothing specific on the train that if you go through this process, you're going to end up in Python ML specifically and for conservation. So you're not going to go off on a tangent. So I think it's the way the community could probably help, i.e. all of us and Wild Labs, is we start to look at some of these infant activities, the first ones that go up there, we try out ourselves. We have a go and we say, actually, yeah, this is working for me, or I think this is a little bit too advanced for this level, and blah, blah, blah. And we just use our own experience to say, are we creating activities that if someone was new to come into this space, they're going to get the most from it? Because again, there's a big difference between advanced Python programming and just basic get started. And we need to figure out what that looks like in our space. But I think it's a great idea. I wouldn't, before you were on the call, I wouldn't say, if someone had asked me, where do I go? I wouldn't say go here specifically to get that. I'd say, go on Wild Labs and search around. But I wouldn't point anyone to a specific place. So we can build a space.
Yeah.
But we can just say, here's where everybody puts that kind of stuff. Yeah. That would be great. That's what I wanted to share.
Okay. We can pick this up in the after hours chat if we want to keep talking.